So today I wanted to talk to you about Design Center 3.0 and the software support available for the new Vantage 850D multi-room amplifier. So one of the great things about Design Center 3.0 and the 850, as you can see in this screenshot here, I am looking at a sample project here in the office, and I am connected live to an 850. You can see up in the top center section here on the Vantage 850 object, we've got some additional drivers such as the Vantage DMM, the music server, a Nouveau tuner, it's a dual tuner, and an iPort dock, the FS23. Could have been an FS22, could have been an IW. But what I wanted to show here was the combination of the 850 and the live zone management and live source management available to you inside of DC. So how I get to this point was I built a DC file, and then I created an AV closet room, and I went over into the Vantage objects, into the audio video section, and I dragged in a new Vantage 850D audio stack object. So that's how that got populated. I also added a Vantage DMM, brought that into the project. Then I went into my drivers pane and I brought in the Nouveau NVT2 driver and the iPort FS23 driver. All of those are sitting in a rack here that I can test with, or at least the DMM and the 850D are. So once you add the 850D, you have the ability to go through and start to configure its zone and source information. So as an example, zone 1 here, I'm going to say is available in a specific area. So notice in this center section here, I'm going to be clicking on zone 1, the 850D object, zone 1. I want to assign it an area. So for example, let's go to the drop down list, and I'm going to put it in the kitchen. So what that just did for you is it now gave you a graphical representation of a speaker or an object in the kitchen. For example, right here you can see we now added a speaker object. This is brand new in 3.0, where we add audio zones to specific objects so that you know there's something there, just like a load or a new sensor or a keypad or the like. So that's brand new in 3.0. I'm going to now rename this to the kitchen audio zone 1 and call that good. And I've assigned him to the kitchen area. I'm going to go to zone 2 as an example now, and maybe he's in the office. And I'm going to rename him to be office audio zone 2. And you go ahead and repeat this for all of the zones as you need. And as you run out of the 8 zones, you can add a stacked object. So if you needed to, you can click on the add amplifier, and that will now add a stacked object and give you an additional 8 zones. You can go all the way up to 72 zones on this particular product, the Vantage 850D. Now, a couple of other things that we're going to do here for you today is we're going to also configure sources. So notice that I had added a DMM, a tuner, and an iPod dock, and I'm going to go to my sources, and on source number 1 I have the ability to go through this drill down tree. So for example, in the downstairs theater AV closet, Vantage DMM source 1. Now I have the ability to either use the device name or not, and notice that you get a dialog box, and what that does is that will either name that source as whatever you have named that driver source, or you can name it yourself. In here, in this case, you could call it DMM source 1, or you could call it Dad's Music, or some kind of a combination or the like, depending on what you wanted to do. Let's go to static source 2 now as an example. So let's expand it out. Go to Vantage DMM, let's choose source 2. And if I wanted to, again, I could say use device name, or I could choose not to. And in this case, let's say this is Mom's Music, Vantage DMM source 2. And so on and so forth. So you would repeat that step for, let's do that for the remaining sources. Source 3, and let's go to source 4, and say it's the input, the output of the DMM. Number 4 is coming into in. Number 4 on the 850, let's say number 5 is going to be tuner 1. Let's say number 6 Input 6 is going to be tuner number 2. And a couple things we could do. We could say use device name on here to help distinguish between tuner 1 and tuner 2, or we could have renamed it ourselves. And then here we're going to go to static source 7 is going to be the iPod dock. You could rename it instead of being the driver. You could call it the iPod dock, or you could leave it as iPort FS23. Either way, whatever is going to work for you. So that's the source renaming and source assignation. Now these particular sources I added into the, you notice the area here in the AV closet down in the basement, theater AV closet. So those are how you add sources and you add zones, and you can assign those to specific areas, and you can rename them specifically to what you need. And that's also how you add more than one set of 8 zones. You add another 850D. So let's do a couple of other things right now. For example, I've already done this for you in this project, but I wanted to configure this product. Now this is an Ethernet bus based object, meaning it plugs into the local area network just like a computer would or any other device would, just like the 1080, just like the IRX2 products. They are a Cat5e or Cat6 network connected devices as part of your local area network. But they don't get an IP address per se. They use the Ethernet bus protocol and a serial number to communicate on the system. So just like keypads, you're going to configure this device. So you're going to be in Design Center, you're going to click on your 850D object in Area View, you'll be down inside of the stack object, and you're going to click on Configure Stations. And then what you have is the ability on either one of two ways. Either from the front screen on the 850, just touch the LCD screen and it will then populate the serial number, or you have the ability on the very back next to the LED heartbeat, there is a push button that will also allow you to press, and it will configure that device as well.